It's been no secret that George Lucas had made millions over the merchandising rights to Star Wars from the start. And it's no secret at all that Lucas was very unhappy with some of those deals, the main one being Kenner for the Star Wars toy rights. Lucas felt if 20th Century Fox had waited until the release of the film, they could have gotten a lot more in the deal and even had other toy companies in a bidding war. 20th Century Fox, however, saw the release of Star Wars as yet another movie being released, and its toys and merchandise were just part of the promotion, and nothing that really mattered that much at all. That deal 20th Century Fox made with Kenner would give the toy company exclusive rights to manufacture and distribute all toys, games, and crafts based on Star Wars. Kenner would pay Lucasfilm and 20th Century Fox a royalty of 5% of its gross sales. The agreement also stated that as long as Kenner paid Fox and Lucasfilm at least $10,000 in royalties during the previous year, then the agreement would extend for an additional year. In short, if Kenner sold more than $200,000 a year in Star Wars merchandise, the license agreement would continue. All Kenner had to do was pay the $10,000 in toy royalties each year to keep the rights. As for the deal between Lucasfilm and 20th Century Fox, 20th Century Fox would take a 15% fee for making the deal, and the two companies would split revenue 50-50. There is a big Star Wars myth of how Lucas got 100% of the merchandising rights and left 20th Century Fox with nothing. But this isn't really true. Fox could sell anything they wanted to related to Star Wars, not just Lucasfilm. But Lucas did have complete control over the use of the name Star Wars, giving his company the sole and exclusive rights to use the Star Wars name. In Daniel Pollock's 1983 biography on George Lucas called Skywalking, Lucas had this to say about the Kenner deal. "We've lost tens of millions of dollars because of that stupid decision." That statement from George Lucas did not sit well with Mark Previs, the former head of Lucas Licensing's division, who believed that this statement from George Lucas could damage his name and his reputation, so Mark filed a lawsuit against George Lucas. The court date was set for May 24th, 1985. In court, Mark admitted that it was true that 20th Century Fox made merchandising deals prior to the release of the film due to the fact that they saw it as promotion for Star Wars and not a way to produce cash. He also admitted that it was true that 20th Century Fox would get 15% for making the deals. George Lucas's lawyers had Mark admit that the term "giving away the merchandising rights" used by the author in the George Lucas biography Skywalking was a meaning that Fox took a lower price for the rights. The court ruled that the statement was just Lucas's opinion of the deal between Fox and Kenner. The statement of "lost tens of millions of dollars" did not mean that Fox or Lucas did not profit from the deal, but that Lucas felt that he lost money that could have been made with a better deal. They also ruled that Lucas using the word "stupid" was seen as an opinion and not directed at Mark Previs, but it was just how Lucas felt about the 20th Century Fox deal with Kenner, believing that he should have got a better deal. The lawsuit was dismissed by the court as Mark Previs really had no basics for his claim. Although Lucas wasn't happy with the deal Fox made with Kenner, he was happy that there was one deal Fox backed Lucas on, and that was, whoever did make the Star Wars toys could not also produce toys based on the Steven Spielberg film Close Encounters of the Third Kind that was being released at the end of 1977. But that really didn't seem to matter much to Steven Spielberg, as according to Charles Lippincott, Spielberg did not see his film as being one for toys. But Lucas did strike a more personal deal with Kenner, that they would send one of every Star Wars toy they made free to Steven Spielberg.
You have to put it together.
By May of 1984, Kenner saw the Star Wars line starting to fall in sales as other toy lines like Mattel's Masters of the Universe line and Hasbro's G.I. Joe grew. With no new movies planned to help kids invest in Star Wars, Kenner worried the end was here, but they were not going to let their gold mine for years just dry up.
We need a plan.
So Kenner went to their employee, Tom Nizahazel, for help. Tom and his team put their minds together to find a way to get newer kids into Star Wars. The kids were not going to come to them, so they had to go to the kids.
What do you want?
HDS, sir. And how are you this afternoon? All righty then. I have a package for you.
They came up with the plan, Star Wars Direct Mail Program, or as Tom and his team would call it, the Young Jedi Knight Kit. Kenner would send kids, well, young boys, a letter from Luke Skywalker himself. Not only would they get a letter from a real Jedi Knight, they would also get a free Star Wars action figure. Most likely, an Ewok. And for $1, they could get another free figure and a rebate to get paid back from a figure they could buy at the store. Out of the 77 action figures, they already would have 3. How could a child not want to complete something they already had 3 of? The package was mailed out, addressed to the son of. They were mailed out to 1.5 million households that had a male child between the ages of 3 and 5 in the United States. Out of these 1.5 million, I myself or anyone I know never got one.
What a pisser.
Not only would the package come with a free figure, most likely an Ewok, or the Jedi Knight letter, it would also come with a letter for the parents, written by the president himself. The president of Kenner, that is. Also inside the package, they would find a full color photo, 17 by 22 inches. But that wasn't all. For all those that got the package that August, their parents would receive something also. If we sent your son one free action figure with an offer to get one extra free action figure, plus a coupon to get a rebate of an action figure of his choosing, and he already has 4 of the 77 action figures to collect, how many did he get free from Kenner? A telephone survey call to see what the parents thought of the program. So not only did Kenner send out unsolicited packages to children, they called their parents to bug them with a survey. So how was Kenner getting the names of these 1.5 million young boys between the ages of 3 and 5? Well, they teamed up with Gray Direct, a division of Gray Advertising. If anyone in 1984 knew about sending junk mail to families in the United States, it was Gray Direct.
Oops.
In order to verify that the mailings were actually taking place, Gray Direct randomly inserted the names and addresses of Kenner employees. One of these Kenner employees, named at random for the Young Jedi Knight kit, was the creator himself, Tom Nyhazel. Let's take a closer look at the mailed out package. The figure most likely mailed to your house was Chewbacca or Logray the Ewok. The figures mailed was already produced action figures, already on the market. Some rumors have said that prototypes or yet unreleased figures were mailed out, but this is not the case. There have been rumors of other figures showing up in the kit, other than Chewbacca and Logray, from Lando, Darth Vader, C-3PO, and a Jedi Knight Luke. However, Chewbacca and Logray seem to be the most common, with Logray being the most common of those two. If you really want kids to get back into Star Wars, I doubt sending them a free Ewok was the smartest thing to do. As for the letter to the parents from the Kenner president, it came with a detachable rebate coupon for a second free action figure offer. All your child had to do was mark the one he wanted, and Kenner would send it to him. The letter from the Kenner president read, "Remember how exciting Star Wars was the first time you saw it? Well, now you can introduce your young child to the same thrilling adventures with the free Star Wars action figure. And this is just the start of the excitement. Read on and find out how to get another action figure free. All because the Force is with your young Jedi Knight." Dear Mr. and Mrs., it was 7 years ago in 1977 that the first Star Wars movie took nearly everyone in America to a galaxy far, far away. You can probably remember sitting in the theater, totally involved in the exploits of Luke, Leia, Han, and Chewbacca. And you may even admit to cheering out loud when the Rebels destroyed Darth Vader's Death Star. There are many reasons for the success of all 3 Star Wars movies. They were thrilling. Their characters were colorful. They were full of mystery and action. But most of all, they stirred the imagination. The running theme in Star Wars was the Force. And perhaps the Force is imagination. The power to believe in yourself and your abilities. It's something I think we all like our children to have. That's why we at Kenner has sent your young child a free Star Wars action figure to help introduce him to the adventures and excitement of Star Wars and to the power of the Force. We've enclosed a colorful poster with pictures of all the leading characters and a brief introduction to the Star Wars story. Save this poster so you can read the story of Star Wars to your son. It's a tale of adventure he'll never get tired of. You'll also find a letter to your son from the Jedi Knight Luke Skywalker. When you read Luke's letter to your child, you'll see 4 action figure stickers. Though this is a limited time offer, he can choose one of these toys for just $1 postage and shipping charge. To get his second free Star Wars action figure, simply place the sticker of his choosing on the free Star Wars action figure coupon below and mail it in the enclosed reply envelope with $1. We hope your son enjoys his free Star Wars action figure, and we think you'll have a good time introducing him to Star Wars and seeing his imagination take off. P.S. Also at the bottom of this letter is a rebate coupon you can use to get money back on any Star Wars action figure you buy at the store. Simply send the coupon with the proof of purchase and Kenner will send you a rebate check in the mail. Joe Mellison, President, Kenner Products. What about the letter to the child that was written by the Jedi Knight himself, Luke Skywalker? Well, it read, Dear young Jedi Knight, greetings. Hope this letter reaches you. I'm sending it over a great distance and many millennials. A long time ago, when I lived with my aunt and uncle on Tatooine, I wanted very badly to be an adventurer. I wanted to roam the galaxy, looking for excitement. Well, I found it. Your parents can probably tell you a little about what happened to my friends and me. It was exciting, to say the least. Imagine how thrilling it was zipping through space, doing battles with Darth Vader, saving Princess Leia, and destroying the Death Star. And that wasn't the end, because Darth Vader had a terrible secret in store for me, and I had yet to learn how to harness the mysterious power of the Force. I sent you a gift so that you can start sharing in our adventures and make new ones up all your own. With your parents' permission, you can even use these stickers on the outside of this letter to choose the other Star Wars toy. Maybe one day you'll be able to help us, should a villain like Darth Vader ever again endanger Princess Leia and the Rebel Alliance. In the meantime, be sure to study hard as I did, and may the Force be with you. Your friend, Luke Skywalker, Jedi Knight. Also in the package, a prepaid envelope and the poster of Star Wars. Thanks to this program, young boys, sorry girls, could pick between Vader, Luke, 3PO, or R2 to get the free figure. Shockingly, these figures came shipped on the Kenner card, rather than in a Kenner baggie, like every other mailed out figure from Kenner. However, the proof of purchase logo was marked out with a marker, most likely so it couldn't be cut off to use with other offers. The second package came with the figure, a Kenner Star Wars toy catalog, and a letter from Kenner that read, Dear Star Wars customer, thank you for your interest in Star Wars action figures. Enclosed is the second free toy your child requested. We also included a mini catalog of all our Star Wars action figures and accessories. As you can see, there's no limit to how far your children's imagination can go, or how much fun he can have. To help expand his collection, we have enclosed a rebate coupon that will save you money when you buy additional Star Wars action figures. Simply send in your coupon with the 2 proofs of purchases from your Star Wars action figures, and we will send your rebate directly to you. Again, thank you for responding to our offer, and may the Force be with your entire family.
Long live the Kenner Alliance!
Whoever said nothing in life was free? Kenner showed sometime it was. This was by far a strange plan from Kenner, and sadly, it didn't really seem to help, as Kenner pulled the plug on Star Wars action figures the following year. The elusive Yak Face. Never released in America. It did make it to Canada on the Tri-Logo card, and did get released on a Power of the Force card in some countries like Australia and Europe. But for us in the US, we never got Yak Face. And for years, since I've been collecting vintage Star Wars toys, I heard that Kenner's plan was to have Yak Face as the next mail-away figure. As you know, before each new series of Star Wars figures, they would do a mail-away figure to kind of kick off that next series. Of course, before Empire Strikes Back, you had Boba Fett, And you actually had bots too as a secret figure. And then during the Empire Strikes Back line, you had a free offer for a Forlom. Now, of course, I'm not going to go through each giveaway figure. I've done a video on the Melloways. But you had the Emperor, who was a mail-in figure, and the Admiral Akbar was offered at the end of the Empire Strikes Back line, promoting Return of the Jedi. And to kick off Power of the Force, you had a free offer for an Anakin Skywalker. And for years, I heard that Yak Face was their plan for Series 2 of the Power of the Force figures. But Kenner canceled the line, so being they already had him made ready to mail out as a Melloway offer, they threw him on a card and sent him to Europe and Australia and Canada, where the figures were selling better than they were in the US. A little better. But I've never seen any evidence of this claim. Now, there was a quote in one of the Steven Sansweet books back in the 90s. In the Star Wars Archive book, it said that Yak Face was safe for a Melloway, but there's no information given that this is true. So I wanted to kind of look into it and see, was Kenner planning to release this as a Melloway figure to launch Series 2 of the Power of the Force figures? Although I believe this story, because I heard it so much since I started collecting vintage stuff, I didn't even really question it, but I did look into it anyway, and my mind's been changed. Yak Face, you are not going to be a Melloway figure for the Power of the Force 2 line. Now, how do I make this claim? Well, we have no really information that leads us one way or the other. Nothing official from Kenner, that is. So let's look a little closer why I believe he wasn't going to be a Melloway figure. Let's look at this early picture for the upcoming Power of the Force line in 1985 done by Kenner. As you can see here, these are mostly prototypes. They vary from the actual release of the figures. Of course, we have Luke and Endor, Anakin Skywalker, who was the Melloway figure for this line, Lando, and oddly enough, for some reason, we have two people listed as an A-Wing. Some reason, some foolish Kenner employee put A-Wing above the Imperial Gunner and A-Wing under the A-Wing figure. And oddly enough, the Ewoks didn't get named here. I guess they just thought they were Ewoks. Now, as you can see here, these are 15 figures for the Power of the Force line in 1985. And before you tell me, hey, there's 17 figures in the Power of the Force line, no, they're not. There's 15. Often people call it the last 17, but no, it's not. It's actually the last 15, as two of the Ewoks, not shown here, was released at the very tail end of the Return of the Jedi line. But what do these photos tell us that would give us a hint that Yak Face wasn't going to be a Melloway offer figure? I mean, it's just a photo. I didn't point it out in the video, but I think it was obvious. It was just a piece of cardboard cutout. They didn't have a produced Yak Face. But it shows us that as early as 1984, before the launch of this line, that they were already getting ready to produce Yak Face. Now, if this was a figure planned for a 1986 line, he wouldn't have been in production before the release of Power of the Force in 85. That's probably the strongest evidence I could find that shows this figure was getting ready to be made for the 85 line and not held over for 86 as part of a promotion. And you're probably saying, well, look at that photo. All the other figures are hard copies, prototypes, except for Yak Face, which was a cardboard cutout. So maybe they were going to release the Power of the Force line, and then halfway through the year, have Yak Face, who they were already designing, come out as the Melloway figure for Power of the Force Series 2. And that's a good assumption, but I really don't think they would have been that far working ahead, especially on a toy line that was already showing signs of dying out. We're going in 1985. Kenner knew the struggle of the new Star Wars line. In fact, they were already toying with an idea to make new Star Wars figures that were more to the scale of the mask figures. Did a whole video on that, so check that out. But could it be that they were just looking ahead? They had the cardboard cutout of Yak Face, so they were saving it for 1986. Then when the line canceled, they went ahead and threw what they had out there for the European collector. Well, let's go to early 1985 and look at Toy Fair. Yep, Yak Face was already on show to the U.S. Toy Fair. Now, if Yak Face was planned to be given away free as a mail-in figure in 1985 to launch the 1986 line, it's very unlikely that he would have been at Toy Fair on show. Well, not unlikely he would be on show. I mean, we did see Boba Fett at the Toy Fair before he was released, but I think at Toy Fair there would have been some information that said what this was. That, hey, look, we have a new promotional figure coming out. The new Yak Face figure, mail-in figure. I think they would say that. But going through all the Kenner documents, there's no stickers made. As you know, all free figure mail-in offers have the little logo sticker placed on cards. We've never once seen any official thing from Kenner that's a sticker, a roll of stickers or anything. We've never even seen any kind of offer made at Kenner. We can find no evidence. You'd think by now there would be some kind of documentation to show that Yak Face was in the planning stages of being a mail-in offer. Also, with a toy line that was dying out, would Kenner even want to do a mail-away figure? Did they really want to produce more figures than they needed, just in hopes of a mail-in figure offer, and then have the figures shipped to the stores also? Again, it's possible, but very unlikely. They knew by 1985 that the line was dying out. But we do know that every time there was a line produced, right before the new line, a mail-in figure was offered. So before they officially canceled the Power of the Force line, the Kenner team had to be looking into what was next. Just in case there was a Series 2 in 1986. They had to offer something free. I mean, this is what they always did as far back as 1979. So, was Yak Face gonna be the offer? And that answer is no. We do know what the next offer was gonna be, and it wasn't gonna be a mail-away figure. Kenner's plan was to release a mail-in offer or to put your Power of the Force coins in. Prototypes of the card with the sticker on it have been found. So it would be very odd that, hey, everything survived. We know of everything Kenner was planning, and even at the very end, the Power of the Force coin album, but somehow all the information about Yak Face in the middle of all this would have been lost? That's hard to believe. There's no indication at all to lead anyone to believe that Yak Face was going to be a mail-away figure for the 1986 line. But now you're saying, well, why didn't we get Yak Face in the U.S.? And before you tell me about your friend little Timmy Turner that bought a Yak Face and he'd never been out of the country or he'd never even been out of his hometown, how did he get a Yak Face? Well, although they were not officially released in the United States, KB Toy did buy some of them from European countries and other places that couldn't sell them. So some of the KBs did get their hands on some Yak Faces. So if you got a Yak Face in America, or your friend did, that's probably why. It wasn't an official release, but KB did get their hands on some. But why didn't we get an official release? Well, it looks like Yak Face was going to be added to the Power of the Force line just a little later in the series. Maybe he took a little longer to produce and just wasn't ready on time. Or maybe they just wanted to give a little extra push to this line. This isn't unusual. Return of the Jedi line at the very end added 2 Ewoks right before the Power of the Force line. Although we don't have an official reason of why Yak Face was held off in the US, because we do know that he was in the plans when they started making the Power of the Force lines. It probably comes down to what it always comes down to is money. In 1984, Kenner was seeing a decline in Star Wars sales. Power of the Force was the final push. But sadly, that last push for Star Wars figures wasn't doing anything to help the line. Power of the Force figures ended up in clearance bins all around KB Toys, Toys R Us, or wherever you could buy toys. It was clear Star Wars was dead, and Kenner canceled the line. But they still had Yak Face in the works. So why just throw away the figure? I mean, you already spent a lot of money and time on it. Why not go ahead and pack the figures that you have, send them to a market that's already selling Star Wars figures better than the US, not much better, but a little better, and then that way you can kind of not lose any money on making a figure that you're not going to release. You ship it out to European countries, Canada on a tri-logo card, and you make as little bit money back as you can, and then you cancel the line. Anyway, that's a look at Yak Face and if he was a mail-away figure. As far back as the early 90s, I heard that Yak Face was going to be the mail-away figure for the 1986 Power of the Force 2 line. I can find no evidence at all to support this. This is the junk room. Junkman is on the line.
Good, you answered. Sorry about the precautions.
Oh, no problem, no problem. I just hope this is worth my time,
I
Mr.
can give you a false name, but I won't. Just call me X.
Well, you know, I've already been warned by others, told to watch what I say, watch what I do. If this is another type of threat, it's just not...
I'm not with the agency, Mr. Junk. I'm sure if you answer the phone, you're interested in what I have to say. But I'm not going to name names or tell you who or what I represent. Except I will say I did work for Kenner, back when Star Wars was on fire.
I understand.
Everything I'm going to tell you is classified, top secret. It was locked deep in the Kenner vaults, and even deeper inside the Hasbro vaults. Back in 1977, I was working to find kids to photo for the Kenner Star Wars toy boxes. Sure, by this time, most of the other toy companies had moved on to doing boxes with just toys and fun action poses. But Kenner wanted to bring in kids, so other kids could see how fun the toys were. Of course, not all the boxes had kids playing with toys. After one kid broke the X-Wing fighter, he was reassigned to the $6 million man chute. Oddly enough, he never showed up on the $6 million man box, or any other toy box for that matter. Then there was the land speeder accident. Let's just say Kenner learned not to use girls for their photo shoots anymore, unless they really had to. Girls, Mr. Junk, have long hair, and the land speeder has spring-loaded wheels. Anyway, it was 1977, and we photoed these kids playing with the toys. No one knew who the kids were. No one even asked their names. No one paid them. Sure, Kenner promised free toys, but it was best to take the photos and then tell them the toys are in the mail. This was a great plan for Kenner, and it helped sell many of toys. Millions. But some parents of the kids returned wanting a commission and the promised toys. So as quick as they were used for the boxes, they were removed. By 1980, we were getting ready for the release of Empire Strikes Back. Kenner had high hopes, and they didn't want to use kids anymore. Sure, some kids' hands would still appear on the boxes, time to time, but no faces. Nothing that would cause legal issues, or cause Kenner to have to pay them. Trust me, Mr. Junk, some of these kids' hands, well, they belong to kids, but let's just say we only had the hand and the arm. After all, the local morgue, it was just a few blocks away from Kenner. Remember that next time you see a hand on a toy box.
Wait, you're telling me just the hands or arms of kids were used for these boxes? Can you prove any of this?
Proof? You're not gonna find any proof, my friend. Kenner learned long before Star Wars not to write down anything they didn't want others to know. But those hands on the boxes, just like the kids, they were fading out. We stopped using them. By 1983, with the release of Return of the Jedi, kids, their hands, any part of the kid, was mostly gone from the package, replaced with what looked like to be a fun setup by kids getting ready to play with their Star Wars toys. But in fact, Mr. Junk, it was set up by professional artists to make it look like kids were about to have fun. It was all manipulation to trick kids and fool parents.
So they replaced the kids with scenes to make it more appealing to the buyers. I really don't see where any of this is going.
Where it was going was 1985. The release of Power of the Force, Mr. Junk. Sure, there wasn't many vehicles or playsets released in that line. But did you ever notice anything different about the Power of the Force boxes that was unlike the other Star Wars boxes?
Nothing really. I mean, there wasn't much release from the line. Not vehicle-wise. There was the battle wagon, and of course you had the skiff, and you had those little mini rigs. But now they were on blaster cards.
Well, that's all that got released. An X-Wing was planned for the Power of the Force line in a new box, but it never made it to stores. Even the A-Wing was planned to be released in the movie line, but it was moved over to the Droids line. But what did all the boxes have in common? They didn't have kids playing with the toys. They didn't even use fancy professionals to set up toy scenes. They used artwork. From 1977 all the way to 1984, Kenner used real toys. This was the backbone and heart of the Star Wars toy line. Use real toys to sell them to kids. Yet almost overnight, for the 1985 Power of the Force line, it all changed.
Who ordered the change?
Well, that's the real question, isn't it? Who is just scenery for the suckers? Was it Loomis? Was it one of the original owners? The names just keep people guessing. Who ordered it? Who benefited from it? Who had the power to cover it up? This was 1984. The Star Wars line was in trouble. Hell, we all saw how He-Man, G.I. Joe, and other toy lines was taking over sales. The writing was on the wall. Yet they made a change that would rocket the core of the Kenner Star Wars department. The real question is why? Why change it at all? It had worked so well in the past.
So why then?
I was still working in the photo department when my boss got a call in 1984. From who? I'm really not sure.
We're changing things in the fall. Moving things to the south end. We want you to come up with a plan.
Whoever it was, it got things done. The whole photo department was closed down, almost overnight. Records, files, cameras, lights, everything was trashed. The photographers were laid off. The fresh out of college art students moved in. But no one ever said, the packages must be changed. There was no vote, nothing on paper. No one to blame if it didn't help sales. Sure, some on the low side of the pole, they got fired. But at the top, at the power structure, the people who really knew what was going on, they all had plausible deniability.
I'm not sure if I can buy this. I mean, it really makes no sense. I know the Star Wars sales were slipping, but Why change things? I mean, they were so long into doing it this way. Why then? Why 1985? Why Power of the Force?
Look around you, Mr. Junk. Or at least around you in 1985. Look at the other toys at the store. He-Man, G.I. Joe. In 1985, we got Thundercats. By that time, every other toy company was using beautiful art to trick the kids into thinking the toy was a must-have. And these toys are really biting into the sales of Star Wars, who at the time had no real future. The movies were dead, or at least for the foreseeable future. Sure, they had 2 kid cartoons starting up, but that would only keep the line going maybe for another year, if that at all. Star Wars packaging was looking old in the stores. The other toys looked bright, hip, cool. They looked like a work of art. And those in power at Kenner, they were jealous. They wanted to look cool. They wanted to be hip.
You know, there's something about that time period. The change from the toys on the box to the artwork. I don't know. It always seemed that maybe I was just growing up and it was all me. But looking back now, it seemed like that's when my childhood ended, when they stopped using toys for the photos and started using artwork.
That's when you lost your innocence, Mr. Junk. You and millions of kids. And it was right there in your face. Look at the artwork for the Imperial sniper. The artwork is beautiful, but have you ever noticed something that you can only see once you open it?
Nothing really special. I mean, there's a stormtrooper and a Death Star trooper flying the little vehicle, but can't think of anything else special on the card.
Once you open the package, you can see the Death Star gunner has R5-D4 hooked to his sniper ship, about to drop him to his death. R5-D4, a figure released as far back as 1979. The old figures. This was Kenner's way of saying goodbye to the old ways, goodbye to the old package. Right there in front of us all was the Death Star gunner killing its past. The kids never really even noticed.
I can't believe this. They killed the line, they hurt sales, all because they wanted to save some money and look as cool and hip as the other toys?
Don't be shocked, Mr. Junk. This is as old as time. Toy companies will do anything to keep sales growing and to look cool. But don't trust me. Do your own work, your own digging.
Can you go on record with any of this? Maybe we can do a live stream together.
No chance in hell, Mr. Junk. I would be declared insane and hospitalized, maybe even worse. I'll give you the background. Use it to dig around. Find out who made the call that night. Find out who hired those artists. Find out where those kids on those packages are today. Find out why R5-D4 was on the sniper package. Keep digging, Junkman. You will find your answer. They would have banned your channel already. But you've shined too much light on them already. They're trying to paint you as some ego-crazy southerner. But keep digging around. Do interviews. Stir a shitstorm. Rattle those cages. Remember, fundamentally, people are suckers for the truth. And the truth is on your side, Bubba.
Well, I'll do everything I can, for sure. On April 14th, 1977, Kasumi Watanabe was granted a patent on his invention of the vibrating transmitter mechanism for a phonograph. Sounds fancy, but in short, it was a plastic shield with a small plastic photographic record inside. When powered on, the small plastic record would spin around. By pressing one of the buttons, a needle would come down, causing the record to play a small, short sound with the help of a small amplifier on the bottom. Although the technology wasn't 100% new, as Mattel used a similar device in their Mattel O-Phone in the late 60s. However, this device was more durable and smaller, making it better to fit inside toys. Kenner was impressed with this device and knew it would be perfect for the Star Wars line. After getting the rights to use the patent, there was one issue. What ship could they use it for? The TIE Fighter, the Land Speeder, the X-Wing were all too small to house the device and its working parts. The only big ship at the time was the Falcon. It could house the device easily, but it was already a massive toy with a high retail cost. Adding it to the ship would just jack up the price. The other problem, those ships were already being mass produced and close to hitting the market. Any device added would have to be an updated version. No kid parents was gonna buy the Millennium Falcon twice just to hear it talk. So the Kenner designers knew they had to come up with something that looked like Star Wars that could house the device. And not only did it have to house the device, it would also need to have a place for the battery and still have play features for the kids to want it. After brainstorming, Kenner's design department came up with a plan. Using parts around Kenner, such as one of the jets from the X-Wing, they invented from scratch a Star Wars toy that was not seen in the film. Something they knew that would go against the rules laid out by Lucasfilm, thanks to George Lucas, who wanted to make sure merchandise didn't get carried away like it had with Star Trek. He wanted everything to stay within the film. But the Kenner designers knew they had a hit on their hands, and decided to go forward and design the Imperial Troop Transporter, a vehicle that looked like it was just out of frame in Star Wars. To help sell the plan to Lucasfilm, Kenner came up with a small black and white comic book that would come inside the box with the ship that would explain to the kids what the vehicle was. According to that comic book, it was a vehicle used by the Empire to transport the troopers as they searched for the missing droids. It would also be able to transport prisoners they picked up on the way. But that wasn't all. If a talking Star Wars toy and a small black and white comic book wasn't enough to sell Lucasfilm on the toy, the designers came up with a free droid action figure to go along with it, a black Imperial R2 unit. The designers quickly painted an R2-D2 black, cut his feet down so he would fit into the front hatch, and there it was, an Imperial R2 unit. The talking vehicle would play 6 sounds, including dialogue from the movie, plus it would hold 8 figures, 9 counting the new R2 unit. It would also come with a free comic book and plastic headpieces called prisoners' immobilization hoods that would be placed over the head of its prisoners. The front of the ship had a hatch that would open up to place the R2 unit inside and the troopers to drive the vehicles. After seeing the prototype, Lucasfilm loosens its rule on toys not seen in the film. But sadly, this is where a lot of the story gets lost in time. What made Lucasfilm change their mind? It's really unknown, but it was probably the inside tech, hearing the sounds from the film, as it made it stand out from any other toy on the market at the time. As Kenner started to look into production of the Imperial Troop Transporter, cost was getting out of hand. This wasn't the iconic Millennium Falcon, or a small toy like the Land Speeder. Kenner knew it would have to keep retail low, as kids would pick something they have seen in the film over this toy in a second. So the first thing to go was the exclusive figure. It wasn't needed. Next, Kenner redesigned the whole ship to get production costs down. The trooper holding area on the side of the vehicle would stay. The prisoner's headpiece would stay. The front of the ship would be totally redone, now with an opening door rather than a hatch. The spring action hover wheels, much like the Land Speeder, was redesigned to be just basic wheels. The electronics for the talking device was redesigned, where before there would only be one button, now 6 buttons will be placed on top of the vehicle so kids could pick the needed sound for their play. But don't worry, that small black and white comic book to explain what this vehicle was, it still was included with the vehicle. The Imperial Troop Transporter was now redone and ready for mass production with a suggested retail price of $5.49. This would put it well under the retail price of the ships that were just a little under $10, but just a little over the price of a Land Speeder that had a retail cost of just a little under $5. The Imperial Troop Transporter was born, and along with it would come a lot of headaches for Kenner, as the talking device inside was notorious for breaking very easy. They would be flooded with calls how to fix it. By the time the release of Empire Strikes Back the following year, Kenner scrapped the whole transporter. A few of what was left in stock did make it to the Empire Strikes Back logo box, and what else was left over got gutted out and released as the Imperial Cruiser, but now with no talking feature.
Oh, Dad!
Star Wars Imperial Troop Transporter. Stormtrooper sold separately. New from Kenner.
We're going to talk about the toy that Kenner had designed mostly on their own. They had a little clue of what it might look like, but overall, they didn't get anything from Lucasfilm or anyone else to say, hey, this is what you should base the Star Wars toy on. And I'm pretty sure you guys know what I'm talking about. Talking about this little guy right here. The Trash Monster came free inside the Kenner Death Star playset. A nice little addition to the playset. It was a great playset on its own, but having this little guy just kind of made it a lot more fun. Kenner wanted just something extra for kids to get excited about than the massive, tall, elevator action playset. And that was this, the Trash Monster alien that lived inside the Death Star trash compactor. Lucasfilm really didn't know what this monster was going to look like. After all we see in the film is the eye pop out of the water. So other than having an eye that popped out of the water, Kenner had nothing to go on. Lucasfilm had nothing either. It's not like they did concept work for the Trash Monster before making Star Wars. All they knew is that when they made this figure, it had to have something that looked like an eye that popped out of the water. What the trash monster would look like? Well, that was left up to Kenner designer Tim Effler to come up with concept art of what he thought the trash monster would look like under all that trash. But even with concept to go on, they still needed a sculptor to sculpt it from concept to a figure. And for that, they reached out to a new Kenner hire. That new hire was Steve Geddes. Steve came to Kenner in October of 1977, well after the first 12 Star Wars figures were done being designed, and work for Series 2 was about to start up. However, Kenner's head of sculpting, John Garner, wanted to make sure Steve was up to the task for Series 2 by testing his skills with the trash monster. So Steven took the concept art and sculpted the best trash monster that he could. He would then take it to his boss, who would point out failures and send it back to Steven for more work. This went on for 14 days, something that shouldn't have taken more than a day or two. As Steve was working on the monster, he would hold it so long that it would wear off the bumps and the warts on the creature, so Steve would find himself starting over again. And his boss really wanted to make sure the bumps and the warts or whatever's all over this thing really showed up. He wanted kids to feel they got something extra, not just something cheap and thrown in the last minute. He wanted some detail done to the trash monster, and he got it. Steve never gave up. He worked and worked to give his new Kenner boss the trash monster that he wanted. The first prototype of the trash monster was actually painted, but to save costs, the painting was axed as it was cheaper just to make it all green. After 6 weeks, Kenner was happy with the trash monster, but rumors are one person wasn't happy, and that was George Lucas himself, who always imagined the trash monster to be something a little bit more menacing, something a little bit bigger, something more than some kind of weird-looking Loch Ness monster. But all that really mattered was that Kenner was happy with Steve's work. Kenner went on to stay with the Kenner Star Wars team and other Kenner toy lines for years to come. But there was times Steven gave the bosses at Kenner a headache. Steven loved to try to hide things into the toys he were designing. He actually tried to put his face on a tree trunk with the Star Wars Dagobah playset, but those Kenner bosses found it and told him to get rid of it. But some things did get by the Kenner bosses. On that same Star Wars playset, he was able to hide his daughter's name, Emily, on the back of a lizard and a snake. And his wife, Lynn, her name can be found on the playset also. And even Steven's last name, Gittison, can be found on the playset. He even carved his last name into the tail of a tauntaun. That's right, the Kenner tauntaun, if you look at the tail closely, that last name is carved into the tail, as you can see here looking at the picture. But honestly, it's kind of hard to tell. And who knows, Steven probably hid more things in the Star Wars and other toys that just hadn't even been found yet. So, if you get bored, take your Star Wars toy and really dig into it. Really look at it real close, because you never know what you're going to see. But that's the story of the Star Wars toy the Kenner designers had to design all on their own with no help from Lucasfilm. I'm going to tell you a story about a collector that did what many of us do. Let's say you're home alone. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. You got your computer in front of you. What do? You head over to eBay to see if you can find some Star Wars vintage deals. Well, this is a story about a collector that did just that. But it turns out what he thought was a bunch of crap and a chicken bucket was a lot more. It was Star Wars and Kenner toy history. Let's take a look. In the mid-2000s, collector Ross Cuddy was doing what most of us do late at night and bored, searching on eBay for cool vintage Star Wars stuff at a great deal. When he found the listing, Star Wars Vintage Catalog, trailers, blueprints, and more, he figured he'd click on it and check it out. He figured it would be just the Kenner catalogs and maybe the blueprints that were released in 1978. However, the photo on the auction only showed what Ross referred to as a lot of crap. It even had a photo of an unused KFC chicken bucket. Also in the photo was some of the fast food toys from the prequels and some of the vintage Burger King glasses. One thing that really caught his eye was a 1978 Toy Fair catalog, as that would be the year the first Star Wars toys were shown. It was a 7-day auction, and the starting bid was $100. He placed the bid and forgot all about it. That was until about 7 days later when he got a notice that he had won the auction, 100 $100 plus $35 shipping. Oh, I forgot about that auction. How much did I pay for it? Oh, 35 shipping. Oh! A couple of weeks later, a large box showed up at his house. Picking it up, he heard the sound of broken glass and what sounded like a bunch of crap just thrown in the box.
I have a package for you.
Sounds broken.
Most likely, sir.
He took it inside and opened it up to find about what he figured. That crap from the photo was now in a box in his house. And yes, even the KFC bucket was in the box. And inside the KFC bucket was those Burger King Star Wars glasses. Broken. Except for one, they actually turned out to be the one that Ross needed. But I really hope it didn't smell like chicken. He took all the crap out of the box and started to see what he had. A small film reel of one of the Star Wars trailers. And there it was, the 1978 Toy Fair catalog he had hoped for. Taking it out of the box, he saw it was in good shape. And he felt with the catalog, the trailer, and the Burger King glass he needed, it was worth $135. He started to look closer at the 1978 catalog. And that's where he found inside an old folder. Inside that folder he would find old papers that seemed like they were made from the Silver Age comic book era. And they also would have that old musty smell. Once pulling the papers out, he realized this must be the blueprints that was talked about in the auction. And these were not the ones that were released in 1978. As he unfolded the papers and started to look at them closer, he realized they were from Kenner. They were not exactly blueprints, but rather a change of notice form from Kenner, telling the toy designer what needed to be changed. One of these change forms was about the changing of the original lightsaber. The other was a notice to change the Tusken Raider gaffy stick. It seems at first Kenner was going to release this as dark blue, but was changing the color now to brown. One of the other request notice changes was for the Jawa figure to be given a cloak. But there was one more thing inside the envelope. A very early project sheet. A handwritten list of Star Wars toys planned for release. And on that list, for the first time ever, anyone outside of Kenner saw that there was, at a time, very early on, plans for a Governor Tarkin action figure. The date on this sheet was fall 1977. He knew what he had was very early Kenner papers, but he really didn't think all that much of it. Figured it was stuff that the collector market already knew or had seen. Just to make sure, he started to do a little research, checking with people on the Rebel Scum message board, combing over the Star Wars collector's archives. But he really didn't find anything, and soon moved on with his life, and that was it. Until Celebration 4 in May of 2007. At the collector's panel, Ross met with one of the collectors on the board, John Killerman, and showed him the papers he had. John looked him over, handed them back, and said they looked legit to him, and told him that he might want to show it to that collector guy running the panel. And that guy was collector Todd Chamberlain. Todd and the other collectors on the panel knew when they saw the names of former Kenner employees on the papers, they were real. Ross told Todd that he could show them at the Collector Roadshow segment during the panel, and Todd agreed. After showing them off during the panel, a buzz around the collectors started up. They were real, and no one had ever seen them before. But it seems a few did know about them. For some time, someone unknown had been trying to sell them for the last few years. They were asking $225,000, which got ignored by the collector community. Sure, it was a rare find, a part of Star Wars and Kenner history, but $25,000? That was asking way too much. Soon the seller and the paperwork disappeared. That was until Ross showed up at Celebration 4 with his priority mail envelope. Some of the collectors talking to Ross even said they recalled the auction and thought of bidding on it themselves, just for that 1978 Toy Fair catalog. So remember, when it's 3 a.m. and you're looking around on eBay, and you find that list that looks like nothing but crap, maybe, just maybe, there's some old forgotten history mixed inside that crap. I never find anything like that on eBay. The only surprise I ever got eBay was an autographed used condom of Jim J. Bullock. But that's for another video. Anyway, that's a look at a collector that thought he was buying crap and a chicken bucket. And turns out he let us all learn a little bit more about Star Wars history. One of those change forms I talked about was about the Jawa cape. How it went from no cape to vinyl cape to cloth cape. I did a whole video based on that change form, so if you want to check that out at the end of this video, I'll put it in one of those boxes right there. And check out the other box also, or the playlist. But anyway, That's a look at the collector that found history. I'm going to show you this. This here, right here, is the Power of the Force Battle Wagon box. As you can see here, this is the box that was released in 1985 at the tail end of the Kenner line. Now, this is just a normal box, nothing special here. But let's look at some photos. First, they did the design of the box and they sent it over to Lucasfilm, and it got rejected. Yeah, rejected by George Lucas. Well, probably not George Lucas himself, but by Lucasfilm. They rejected it, and it's not clear why. And I thought I'd throw this video up there. Maybe you guys can figure it out. Sorry, the pictures are small and blurry, and it has some writing on it, but we can't make out why. As you can see, here's the box design they sent. It looks a lot like the box design that was released. The only thing different is the battle wagon on the front of the box. Here's another photo here, and the photo does say rejected by Lucas. So why was this box rejected and the other one made it through? It looks about the same to me. Okay, I'll let you put it out there, see what you can decide. Only thing I can find out is that on this one, the battle wagon's tilted, like it's about to turn over, like they're losing the fight. Could that be why Lucasfilm said, no, we can't do that? We got to show the hero Ewoks winning the fight? Is that what it could be? I'm not really sure. Let's look at them side by side. As you can see, there's not much difference here. But it's clear on the release box, the Ewoks are winning. What do you think? Do you think the battle wagon looked like it's about to tip over and the Empire was winning and, oh, they're about to slaughter a bunch of Ewoks? And that made Lucasfilm upset, where they said, oh, let's cancel this and redo the box. What do you think? Again, short video. Got some things going on, so I didn't know if I could do a long one. I had to get this up and out there. I wanted to hear you guys have a video. So let me know in the comments below, what do you think happened to this box? Why did it get rejected? And what's so different about it? Is the theory about it being a little leaning on one side, jacked up like it's about to turn over? Is that a good theory? Let me know that in more in the comments below. But I'm listening to my content. We'll talk again.
Hey, Junkman channel popping though.
Thank you, sir, for that unsolicited testimony.
Hey, Junkman channel popping though.
Thank you, sir, for that unsolicited testimony.